Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. We'll just allow a few um, seconds, a few minutes for all the attendees to join us. So we'll start shortly in about 1 to 2 minutes from now. For those of you who have just joined this Zoom, we are giving some time for the rest of the attendees to come in. So we'll start shortly. I can see a few people still logging in right now. Okay, so without any further delay, good evening, everyone. My name is Nurul, and I am the pre-assessment consultant for GMS. Thank you very much for taking the time to register and attend this webinar. So today's Australia Skilled Migration webinar will be focusing on how to become an Australia permanent resident by being a skilled professional. I bet that, some of you are really eager to listen to the whole presentation. So we'll start right now. Okay, before we start with our topic for today, I'll just take a few minutes to share a little bit about GMS. So Global Migration Solutions, also known as GMS, is an Australian government licensed migration company. We are known as a premier migration firm as we provide the best migration solutions, and most importantly, we handhold our clients throughout their migration process as much as possible, from their initial consultation until their settlement in their respective migration destination. We advocate the right migration practices with trust, transparency, and commitment. So what's unique about us is that we don't have a sales team, and we do not encourage candidates to be advised by a salesperson. So your eligibility assessment will only be undertaken by our consultants. And apart from that, all our team members are equipped with relevant migration knowledge. So when you call us to inquire, they will certainly be able to provide you with basic information. And on this slide, the photos that you see here are basically of our team working closely together with the Australia State Government representatives and our partners. I'm proud to say that we have a really good working relationship with all state governments in Australia, and we have maintained this throughout the 20 years of our experience. And we have successfully assisted over 13,000 families worldwide, with more to come in the pipeline. So to date, our success record is 99%. And even though we are the pioneers for Australia migration, we also provide migration services for these countries as well: New Zealand, Portugal, United States. For New Zealand, we have the Entrepreneur Plus visas and Migrant Investor visas. For Portugal, we have the Golden Visa and D7 visa. And for United States, it's the EB5 Investment Visa Program. And aside from that, we are also present in all of these countries, as obviously Australia, and then Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Hong Kong. So in this slide, you will see these are our experts. So apart from Desmond, we also have two other migration specialists, which is James Allen Hall and Audrey Anthony. So both Desmond and James are licensed migration advisors registered with the Australia government and New Zealand government. And our speaker for today is Audrey. So she's our associate director and has over 14 years of experience in general skilled migration program, family visas, and RRV. And she has handled 5,000, actually, I think even more than that, more than 5,000 successful cases. And these are the details for Desmond and James. You can easily find them on the Australia government website. So you can see that they're registered here with the Australia government. And so I'm actually proud to say that we are also the only migration agency in Malaysia that was awarded the top 25 migration agency CEO award from U Global, which is a migration magazine based in the United States. So Desmond Ang is, as I mentioned, he is our managing director and also our expert advisor for all migration programs, especially Australia. And on the left side there, actually on the right side, it's you can see our industry recognition awards. So in 2021 was top 25 and then top 50. And then the years before that was top 100. Yeah, that was way back then. So I'll pass on the floor to Audrey for her to begin her presentation.
Thank you, Nurul. Thanks for the quick introduction. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're well settled. I know it's Monday. Hope you had your dinner. Traffic wasn't so bad for us today, so I think a lot of y'all are still on your Raya holidays, being a very long weekend. So I'm hoping the session today is going to be beneficial for those here, especially for the first time. I do see a lot of others who have previously attended previous sessions and also have done private consultations with me already. Welcome back. It's always good to hear the second time or third time. Migration is not a very easily understood subject matter. So you're more than welcome to listen to this once again, all right? So now let's start off with why Australia, right? It's a question I always like to ask, even in the beginning of my consultation, actually, like, why do you all actually want to migrate to Australia? Is there a specific reason? And it's nice to know what triggered you to actually begin this. But more than that, what's nice to know is Australia permanent residency is very precious. Okay, so what do you actually get being an Australian PR? So one of the most nice to know facts is being an Australian PR, you technically get to be a New Zealand PR as well. Okay, not only can you live and work anywhere in Australia, but what happens is you will also be entitled to be a New Zealand PR by a virtue of just being an Australian PR. How do you do this? You just need to go to the once you go into New Zealand airport, on arrival, you will be able to apply for a 2 years New Zealand residency visa. And in that 2 years, you just would need to fulfill residency, 50% on the first year, 50% on the second year, after which you will have your indefinite New Zealand PR. Okay, so the way into New Zealand is right now through Australia, while many thought the way into Australia is through New Zealand, thinking New Zealand migration is actually easier, but I'm afraid not. Okay. Next, which is the most important factor why most people that I meet that comes to us do migration, right? It's not that you're not too happy where you're at, but you think one step ahead or many steps ahead in terms of your children's education, right? So in Australia, being a PR, you actually get free primary and secondary school education, tuition fees for that, okay, in public schools. At the same time, you are heavily subsidized on tertiary education, okay? So as an Australian PR, you would only roughly need to pay like 30% of what an international student would be paying for a bachelor degree course, for example. And this is pretty much in even top universities that you're talking about. Okay, you're talking about all your top Deakin, RMIT, University of Western Australia, your UQ, all these universities, okay? So hence why clients start early, okay? They want their children to be able to benefit world-class education at very reasonable fees, okay? Next, Medicare. So being an Australian PR, you'll be enjoying the same benefit like a citizen in terms of the healthcare. So Medicare basically allows you to get free healthcare at government hospitals, and your pharmaceutical, your medicines, right, is usually subsidized up to 30% as well. Welfare benefits, Australia, when it comes to mind, everyone thinks, hey, is the tax high, right? The tax is slightly higher, but what's good is in return, you get it back, right? The residents of Australia actually get it back, not just the citizens, also the Australian PR. So they have many types of benefits. Like, we really can't go into details of the type of welfare benefits Australia has. This can be found on Centrelink actually. So if you actually go to this website called centrelink.gov.au, it will list out a lot of benefits that an Australian resident is entitled to, okay? They've got tax relief benefits. They got real good benefits, like during COVID, Australia was resilient enough to sustain and take care of their residents even during COVID by providing like bi-weekly allowances to the residents. Then, of course, the most important for many people, especially our expat clients, is Australian citizenship. Okay, you basically can become an Australian citizen just after 4 years of being a PR. That's actually very fast and very short. Okay, and even before you become a PR, even before you become a citizen, you will be able to sponsor family members such as your parent, your spouse, and your child, only immediate ones. Okay, so that's a bit about being an Australian PR, the benefits. Now, let's look into the common pathways for migration. You definitely would have heard many people migrating to Australia, and you'll actually wonder, right? Like, hey, like, what visa got them there, right? For some people, you actually wonder, like, seriously, this person is able to get an Australian PR because some think it's really difficult to get an Australian PR, but no, you just need to know which pathway is suitable for you, okay? The most popular is, of course, number one, general skill, which we'll be covering in depth today. So why is general skill migration popular? Because this is a pathway that does not require any form of job, okay? In fact, today I'll be covering two, number one and number two. Global Talent Independent. This visa is a visa for those who are able to demonstrate exceptional achievements, okay? So number one and number two, both these visas actually get you a PR in Australia without you needing any form of employer support, okay? No job offer required, no employer involvement, no need for sponsorship. And that's what we'll focus today. So number three is employer sponsored. So if you actually have an employer in Australia willing to do the visa for you, then you look at number three. Number three is in fact priority right now as well. But the fact is, how easy is it for you to get an employer in Australia to look at your profile and say, hey, I'm going to sponsor your visa? It's not easy unless it's intercompany transfer. As far as, you know, my entire 14 years, I know how difficult is it for a client to just get an employer sponsorship, right? So hence everyone does number one most of the time, and number two if you make the cut, okay? Then the other streams are like family sponsor, business innovation. This is mainly for business owners and investors who want to migrate to Australia with their business experience or invest in Australia, all right? Okay, next. So here's the thing, right? Back to what I was talking earlier. A lot of clients actually try to apply for a job online, thinking that they need to apply for the job first, then do the visa. But if you try doing that, you can try doing that today, okay? Just try doing that today to a couple of recruiters, and in return, you will most of the time you'll get the response back from them. Do you have work rights? Okay, that's the question that they actually ask you. Why? Because they want to know if you have a visa. Because all the recruiters here are just going to hire the talent but not do the visa. Hence, visa is the first thing you need to have. So many say, Audrey, this is a chicken and egg story. How to get a job, how to get a visa without a job and all this, right? So hence, you can get a visa without a job, and that's through general skill migration. So we'll look at the options here. Option 1 is general skill migration and GTI, which we'll be covering today. Option 2, those who are not eligible to do general skill and GTI immediately, let's say you don't have the suitable qualification or experience, many choose to go through student visa first, right? I always make that as the last option for clients, especially if they are at a certain age and they are well established here. I think it takes a lot to quit your job to just go and study in Australia and work your way to get a PR from there. Hence, as far as possible, we always see how a client can match for general skill or GTI. Of course, work visas are where you get the job with the visa together. Okay, that's, again, small one. But for the rest, get the visa first, then look at that, apply for the jobs, all right? So let's look at general skill. Here's the basic criteria to qualify for a general skill migration. There's the age criteria. You need to be below the age of 45. There's a point test that you need to meet. I'll be sharing the point test structure in the next screen. So 65 is minimum. So being minimum works for some occupation, doesn't work for many occupations. So we need to be fully aware of that. There's an occupation list to refer. There's more than 500 over occupations. So you'll be surprised when you look at the list. Some clients usually laugh when I go through the entire list. Oh, they actually have this. They actually have this. Yes, they do. Okay. So don't rule out on your own that, hey, I don't think my skill is on the list. Always just get in touch with us and we will tell you, is your skill on the list or not? Okay. So there are 500 over skills. English test must be done. Okay. Must. Even if you studied in Australia for more than 10 years, you need to still do the English test, okay? This English test can be demonstrated through either IELTS or PTE, okay? PTE is pretty cool. A lot of my clients actually do much, much better in PTE. Basic is competent. You need to get an EOI invitation. Okay, this is like the most important criteria, more than the others that's listed here. This is like literally your make or break of the application, okay, which is to be invited. So how do you get an invitation? You can get an invitation directly from the pool based on your points ranking, or through a state nomination, or through a family sponsorship. But family sponsorship is very, very the lowest priority right now, okay? It's hardly insignificant, but hardly significant. So the most common pathway is skill independent, which is directly from a pool or through state nominations, okay? Then once you're invited, you submit the visa and you need to complete the health checks and criminal checks, okay? So generally, if you're free from any form of critical illnesses, should not be a problem to meet the requirement. And if you're free from criminal conduct, you're also fine, okay? So that's that. Now let's look into the point test. This is for the benefit of those who have not seen how a point test looks like for Australia. So this is how the point test is, okay? You get points for different factors. You actually get more points when you have more work experience. Look at the age criteria. Anyone here who is between the age of 28 to 32, this is your best time, you get the highest points, okay? But honestly, even those with 33, 39, all that, they can make the cut. I'm not saying 40 can't. You can, okay? So as long as you fall into this bracket of the age, you are eligible, okay? Then if you study in Australia, you get more points. And most interesting for some, look at the last one. If you're single, you actually get 10 points just by default, okay? So this is the point test. So when you actually meet us, I would be going through a very detailed assessment on your CV and your profile to see where you exactly stand. Okay. So I just wanted to share with you all a couple of occupations that are very common. Okay. So because you know that now that you can migrate to Australia without a job. And I just wanted to cover a couple of occupations that are really, really popular. Engineers. So if you have engineers today, here's the basic requirement for engineers. You need to need to have a minimum bachelor's degree. Okay. Bachelor's degree is a must for engineers. And then you generally, all engineers are somehow recognized. It's just that you need to know which accord you fall into. Okay. There's Washington Accord. And if you don't fall into Washington Accord, there's always another way through it, which is the CDR pathway. CDR basically just means competency demonstration report. You will need to write a report if the country of your institution doesn't fall into Washington Accord. And there's no special requirements that you need to be, a chartered engineer or anything like that. All right, very straightforward. Bachelor's degree, work experience. No work experience, also you can qualify, but of course it's not going to be competitive enough. For IT, what I would like to point out here is you can migrate to Australia through your IT career, okay? Even if you do not hold any qualification, okay? So it's different than engineers. For engineers, bachelor's degree is a must. For IT, even without any qualification, you can still do it, okay? But you need more years of experience. That's the difference. So you can see for bachelor's, it's as low as 2 years. When you have no qualification, basic to just meet the criteria is 8 years, right? This is for other types of business professionals. So when I say business professionals, it's not businessman, it's more like marketing, public relations, management consultant, technical sales, ICT account manager. What else do we have? Insurance agent, environmental consultants, chemist. There's just a lot, okay? In fact, this is done by the authority called VETASES. The assessment authority is called VETASES. And many occupations fall into this, okay? And what I would like you to see here is, again, bachelor's degree is not mandatory, okay? It goes as low as certificate 3. But you need relevant work experience. So for example, let's just say you're a customer service manager, okay? A customer service manager only requires a diploma, not even a bachelor degree, but it's a managerial position, okay? And you need 1 to 2 years of experience to meet basic criteria, okay? So there are a lot of occupations that can qualify, and let us determine that for you. Okay, now let's come into the visa classes. So in terms of the visa classes, these are the 3 main visa classes for general skill migration. All these 3 visa classes are for 5 years, out of which 2 gets you a direct PR in Australia, okay, which is 189 and 190. Then you have another one which gets you a TR first that can be converted into a PR later. So 189 is skill independent, as the word goes, independent. There is no third party involved in the selection of your profile, the invitation. It's automatically selected by the system according to points ranking and the priority of the occupations. So I'll give an example. You could be an engineer or IT professional being in the pool at 80 points or 85 points, and you might not be invited as yet. But at the same time, if you are an early childhood teacher, for example, or a minimum of 65 points, that's what we are seeing right now. Okay, so that's directly from the pool. Okay, no third party. Second one, so I said skill nominated is a state nominated visa. So we need to see which particular state has your occupation on the list. Then we submit an interest to the state. Once a state invites you, you get a 190 visa invitation to submit a visa. Okay. Third, let's focus on 491. This visa, not very favored by many, simply because of the regional area restriction. So, skilled work regional. So what does regional mean? Regional is not kampung, okay? Regional is basically anywhere in Australia, anywhere, except the three most popular city, which currently is super populated already, okay? Which is Sydney, Brisbane, and Melbourne, okay? So other than these three cities, the entire Australia is regional, okay? So I think it's important for me to mention this. When they say Melbourne, they literally mean Melbourne City and the surrounding CBD areas. It does not mean you cannot be in Victoria, where Melbourne is, okay? Same goes to Sydney. It's not like you cannot access the entire NSW, but it just cannot be in Sydney. Outside Sydney, you have Newcastle, you have Central Coast, you have Wollongong. All these areas are defined as regional. Okay, so it's not that bad. So with this visa, you basically just need to demonstrate two things. Number one, that you were residing in a regional area. Number two, 3 years of your tax statements from Australian Taxation Office. That's all. So why do they use tax document or a tax assessment as the gauge to prove your employment? Because they have no restriction on the type of job that you need to do while you're on this visa. So let's say you apply as a marketing manager. Let's say once you go to Australia, you're doing sales, totally fine, okay? What you apply as your nominated occupation on this visa is not what you need to practice once you're in Australia. I don't want it 190 or 491. None of these PR visas impose the applicant or the visa holder to work back in the nominated occupation. So that's why Australia PR is so flexible, okay? All you need to do is show your 3 years of tax statement. That's it. You can also be self-employed. That's all. Show that and show that you've been living, let's say, in Perth for 3 years. You will then get to change the TR status to become full PR. Okay? Once you get a full PR, you are back to being like a 189, 190. You can live anywhere in Australia. Okay? So this is also an interesting visa. Now, here's the skill migration process. So for those who are going under skill migration, number one, remember you need to have an occupation on the list. How do we determine that? Through a skills assessment, okay? So basically we send your documents to the skills assessment authority. So once that's done, we do the English test with these two documents, your completed assessment result. Number two is your completed English test. With these documents, we move on to your second bubble, which is the heart of the application, expression of interest. Okay. Then we put in the expression of interest according to whatever points standing that you have. Can you make the cut for 189? Or do we just submit 190 and 491 for you? Or do we just submit 491 alone? All this we will discuss with you together. Okay, if we discuss this together to see how you want it to be, but we will be here to guide you to say, hey, that's not going to make sense, or that's going to work for you. Okay, so we are always here to guide you. Once you're in the EOI, you're basically going to wait for invitation. There is no set timeline on how long it takes to be invited. Okay. Then, once you've been invited, you have basically crossed the biggest hurdle already. Okay. You can be very happy then to proceed to the visa application and pay the visa fees and file it. Wait in the queue, complete your medical test, complete the police check, then you get a visa decision. So generally, from visa application to visa decision takes about 1 year. The rest of the time here, maybe 2-3 months, okay? Here, unknown. So generally, the processing time for a general skill migration on average for a very good profile right now is competitive, is about 1.5 years minimum for good profiles. Or it can go on longer. Okay, now GTI. I hardly covered GTI in my previous webinars, and I think it's very important to share GTI, which is Global Talent Independent Visa, with you guys. Who knows, you can make the cut for this. So for GTI, it's basically for those who are able to, as I mentioned, demonstrate a very, how to say, exceptional achievement. Okay, so how do you define exceptional? That's the thing, right? With GTI, there's no point test. Okay, there's no point test. There's no age limit as well. Okay, there is no English test as well. Interesting, right? Everybody might like this now, the fact that there's no English test, there's no age limit. But what is it all about? Proving your achievements. All about proving your achievements, that your achievements are going to be of great benefit to Australia. All right. So there are certain target sectors that they look at. So these are the 10 target sectors. So you might be falling into one of this. Of course, a lot of people fall into Digitech. Digitech is where our IT wizards are, right? So in IT, for example, you will be highly recognized for GTI if you come up with a brand new innovation, a brand new system, and your system is so great, so innovative, able to do a lot of things, replace human being like AI, those kind of stuff. That's going to make the cut. Okay, but there's so many other things. Just take a look. Health industry, if you come up with clinical trials, okay, or digital health, this is what they look at. So there are many sectors: agri-food, tourism, education sector, financial services. There are many sectors. If you think that you have achievements, okay, the term here would be achievements. If you say that, hey, I did this, and because I did that, my company's profit went up by 200%, example, right? Or I was heading national projects for the government. I was implementing new cloud solutions that benefited the country, those kind of things, okay? That's GTI, okay? So GTI, Global Talent, used to be having more quotas. So there was a time when we saw there were more invitations. The invitations are a bit more lenient. Invitations are not that lenient now, but we are here to basically assess your CV and to give you a very transparent assessment on where you stand for GTI, okay? This Global Talent Visa gets you a direct permanent residency in Australia. It's not like, and it's called 858, okay? 858. You go into a pool as well, be invited, submit a visa. There's no state nomination, nothing like that. Directly with the federal government. Okay. So I guess I'm done. So just a quick summary of what we've covered today. So we've covered general skill migration. So general skill migration, you need to have an occupation on the list. You need to be below 45. We will match you to the occupation list. For those who are here above 45 and you think that you are able to demonstrate exceptional achievements, okay, then Global Talent might be an option for you, right? So that's it for today. I'm going to pass it to Nurul.
Thank you very much, Audrey, for the very informative sharing session. So what is next for you? Basically, the first step is to book your free consultation with us first. Aside from calling our office or mobile, you can reach us via WhatsApp and email. The slots are on a first come and first served basis, so contact us as soon as possible to schedule an appointment. Then we will get you to send us your profile to be pre-assessed before your consultation session. So I would just like to stress that although the application process itself is pretty straightforward, determining your eligibility isn't as clear-cut as there are many determining factors to look into, such as the type of your qualification and whether it's recognized by Australia or not. So which is why it is very, very, very important to get your eligibility assessed by a licensed migration advisor. Okay, start your journey the correct way, the right way, so that you don't have any regrets later on. So after step 2, then the next step is, of course, attending the consultation session. Our consultants will go through with you on your eligibility and calculate your potential points. So remember, the general skilled migration pathway is ultimately a point-based application, whereas the GTI, like Audrey mentioned, is just purely based on your exceptional achievements. So the first 3 steps is actually the easy part. The tough part is actually making the decision to take that step forward. Okay? So yes, next. Next slide, Audrey. Okay. So if this is our contact details, if you scan this QR code, it will actually take you to the inquiry form on our website. So you just have to fill that in. It doesn't take long. Honestly, it'll take you less than a minute. You know, it can be very fast. And once our team receives the inquiry form, of course, we will get in touch with you, you know, to the next step. Yeah. And this QR code is to subscribe to all of our social media channel. So if you just scan this code, it will take you to our LinkedIn, our Linktree links. From there, you can just follow all of them. And yeah, it really is it'll take you less than a minute for this. But do follow us on social media, because sometimes we will post in our latest news, especially on TikTok and on YouTube, and even on Facebook as well, and on LinkedIn. So all of our latest news will be shared on social media as well. Okay, yes, so now I would like to open the floor to some Q&As. We already have a few, we've already received some. So Audrey, I'll start with the very first one from one of our attendees. Speaking of skilled migration visa, what is the latest status after the last update that medical professionals are put as priority? It seems to be moving a bit slow.
That's quite right. Right now, the invitations are pretty slow. The last invitation, yeah, there was no further invitation for 189 as yet, but the states are still selecting people on a monthly basis. Okay, it's just that because generally the quota for this year has been minimal, so invitations are trickling in, okay, but it's still active. So it's still going on. So which means they would be selecting high pointers, very high pointers, and high priority occupations. But 189 has been skill independent, it has been quiet. State nominations are ongoing.
Okay, thank you, Audrey. And the next question that we have here is, what is the procedure for GTI? Any interview or written report that needs to be submitted?
No interviews, okay? Written report, it's a statement. It's more of a statement. You need to have a written statement demonstrating your achievements and how your experience and achievements will be able to bring value to Australia. Basically, how you will be an asset to Australia. That's global talent, okay? So no interview, but hence why we need to see what are your achievements. We need to see how to justify that these are your achievements, and also angle it in a way to say how that experience that you've gained here, once you're in Australia, will be able to benefit the Australian community at large. Okay.
Okay, and the next question we have is a skill question. How many visas and states can we put through for EOI at one time?
There's no restrictions on how many EOIs you can submit or how many visas you can submit at the EOI stage.
And the next question is a GTI question. Is there an age limit for GTI, as you know, since above 45 can apply? Yep.
There's no age limit per se, but so any age can apply. It's just that when you are above 55, you will need to show stronger achievements that you will be able to benefit Australia immediately. Okay, immediate benefits to Australia. That needs to be demonstrated. Okay, like for example, let's say, I mean, I'm going to give a very, how to say, a really nice achievement. Let's say someone who does clinical trials, okay, and you have found out, oh, this is going to be saving people's lives, okay, or certain disease, control a particular disease. That this kind of thing is what they want. Immediate benefit to the community, right?
Okay, so this next question is quite interesting. It's not related to the GTI or skill, but more on the 482, because this person is currently holding a 482. So he is working in Melbourne, currently holding a 482 visa, and would like to apply for a PR without being sponsored by his employee. Is that possible? Yes, certainly is. So I'll leave it to Audrey to answer that.
Yeah, most definitely. So that it just means that you are in Australia, an applicant who is in Australia because you're on the 482. But you remember the first chart I showed earlier? A pathway without job offer. What do we have? We have general skill migration. So you can actually apply for general skill migration 189, 190, 491, or even GTI while you're on the 482 in Australia. So these visas that I've just mentioned do not involve the employee. So you can run it concurrently. So it's totally fine to run the application together. So you're holding a 482 and you're applying for the, let's say 190, okay, in Melbourne. So 190 in Melbourne, running concurrently. What happens is if once you're invited and you submit a visa for the 190 general skill migration and it's approved, when it's approved, it will supersede the 482. Then you're basically on your own because you're holding your own visa 190. It supersedes the employer-sponsored visa.
Okay. So next question, since we have a bit more time here, we'll take in a few more. Okay. In the skilled migration process, which part takes the longest when applying? Like, is it the state invite? Yeah.
Yeah, it could be the state invite for some. Basically, there are two stages that takes long in the entire process. Number one is the EOI, because in the EOI, you don't have a certain waiting time, right? You could be someone, just like my other clients, right, who got invited within 2 to 3 months. So I can't say EOI is long, right? But you could be waiting in the EOI pool for also maybe 1 year. So that's long. But the visa application, so once you've submitted the visa till you get the visa decision, is also a bit like about one year. So that's also 1 year. So it could be either the visa stage, post-visa submission, or EOI. Skills assessment, all that is very clear-cut. It's either going to be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. You will know for sure what is the processing time of a skills assessment authority. You will also know for sure what is the processing time of the visa. Right now, visas are being processed in about a year. Now it's getting slightly longer, 13 months, 14 months, okay? But other than that, these two are the longest ones.
Okay. So we have an interesting question here. I believe maybe few of those who are very, very new to general skilled migrations have no idea about this. So the question is, what is the NATI and STEM in the requirement chart?
Okay, in the point test, right?
Yes.
So NATI is actually, this is actually an authority, is an institution, okay, for national accreditation of translation of, I can't remember the exact, but what that actually holds is a test. NATI actually has a test called Credential Community Language called CCL. Okay, so basically CCL is an interpreter test. So if you're able to interpret from English to another language, okay, so let's say English to Mandarin, English to Arabic, English to Tamil, right? And if you pass that test, you will actually get 5 points. So the NATI there in the point test is actually because NATI conducts the CCL test. Okay. The second one was what, Nurul?
STEM, STEM.
STEM. So STEM is basically science, technology, engineering, and mathematics qualification. So if this is only for STEM qualifications completed in Australia, you will get additional points.
Okay, so the last question for tonight is a skill question. Hi, may I know if 491 nomination is still ongoing, or do I need to wait for the next financial year?
It's very slow for 491 because I think generally the entire year, the 190 has more quotas than the 491. So 491 is actually slower than 190, which is a surprise, but it's ongoing still, especially with NSW.
Okay, great. So that's all the time that we have today. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending and for staying on until the end. And for the questions that we didn't answer, it's not that because it's not good or anything. It's just that because it's more personal, the questions that you raised. So don't worry, our team have already taken it down, and we will get back to you personally via email. Okay. So thanks again, everyone. Have a good rest and good night.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So we look forward to assisting you. If you have any questions, just send over your CV and we'll be most glad to attend to your queries. Okay, thank you. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.